The world holds its breath. Every continent, every capital, every living room is gripped by a sense of dread and anticipation, as if the very air is charged with uncertainty. Tonight, the skies over the Middle East are ablaze. Tel Aviv and Isfahan echo with sirens, families huddle in shelters, and the death toll rises by the hour. The once bustling streets are now deserted, lit only by the flicker of emergency lights and the distant glow of fires raging in the night. The shadow war between Israel and Iran has exploded into open conflict with relentless images of devastation and fear. News channels loop scenes of shattered buildings, terrified civilians fleeing for safety, and rescue workers searching through rubble for survivors. Israeli warplanes strike deep into Iran, targeting nuclear and military sites with precision. The thunder of jet engines and the flash of explosions mark a new, dangerous chapter in this long-standing rivalry. Iran retaliates with waves of missiles and drones, overwhelming Israel's defenses. Sirens wail across Israeli cities as citizens scramble for cover, and the Iron Dome lights up the sky in a desperate attempt to intercept the incoming barrage. Violence spills into Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen, threatening to ignite the entire region. Militias and proxy forces mobilize, and the risk of a wider war grows with every passing hour, drawing neighboring countries closer to the brink. The international community watches, paralyzed by the speed and ferocity of the attacks. Diplomats scramble for solutions, but the world's most powerful leaders seem unable to halt the spiral of violence, their statements drowned out by the chaos on the ground. In Washington, the White House is the epicenter of crisis. Security is heightened, advisors work through the night, and the eyes of the world turn to America, waiting for its next move. President Trump, in a dramatic Rose Garden address, issues an ultimatum. He declares that in 2 weeks he'll decide if the U.S. will enter the war. The world listens as he warns both allies and adversaries, his words sending shockwaves through global markets and military commands alike. 14 days to choose a path that could reshape the Middle East and define America's role for a generation. The countdown begins, and every hour brings new developments, new dangers, and new questions about the future. The stakes are immense. One wrong move could plunge the region into catastrophe, while hesitation could embolden adversaries. Military convoys mobilize, strategy rooms buzz with urgent debate, and ordinary people brace for what may come next. The world is on a knife's edge, and the fate of millions may rest on a decision made in the next 336 hours. The clock is ticking. The world waits, united in anxiety as history hangs in the balance. The next move could change everything. In this moment of uncertainty, every second counts, and the choices made now will echo for generations to come. The roots of this conflict stretch back for generations. Decades marked by deep-seated animosity, cycles of sabotage, and a relentless series of proxy wars. The region has long been a powder keg, with each side maneuvering for advantage, and every action echoing through history. Iran has built a network of armed groups, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, effectively encircling Israel with hostile forces. These groups receive funding, weapons, and training from Tehran, tightening the noose and raising the stakes with every passing year. In response, Israel has struck back from the shadows, launching covert operations, targeted assassinations, and daring sabotage missions deep inside enemy territory. The shadow war has simmered for years, rarely acknowledged but always present. 6 weeks ago, everything changed. A devastating cyber attack, widely blamed on Iran, crippled Israel's infrastructure, knocking out power grids, disrupting water supplies, and sending markets into chaos. Daily life ground to a halt, and fear swept the nation. For Israel, this was more than just another attack. It was an act of war, a line cross that could not be ignored. The government responded with Operation Iron Fist, unleashing a wave of airstrikes on Iran's cyber units, drone manufacturing plants, and weapons depots. The message was clear: Israel would not stand by while its people were threatened. Iran vowed swift and devastating revenge, launching a barrage of missiles at Israeli military bases. The tit-for-tat attacks quickly spiraled out of control. The conflict escalated with alarming speed, each strike fueling the next, as both sides refused to back down. The world watched in disbelief as the violence intensified. The shadow war burst into the open, efforts at containment failed, and now the entire region teeters on the brink of a wider, uncontrollable war. The United States, Israel's most powerful ally, now faces a fateful decision it long hoped to avoid: whether to intervene directly or stand aside as the conflict rages. The stakes are no longer just regional. Energy supplies, global security, and the threat of a massive humanitarian disaster all hang in the balance, with ripple effects felt around the world. The world holds its breath as the Middle East spirals toward chaos. Every new headline sending shockwaves across continents. The fuse has been lit. The world can only watch and wait for what comes next. President Trump's ultimatum was pure political theater, 2 weeks to decide America's fate. The world watched as he set a ticking clock, transforming a complex crisis into a high-stakes countdown. The pressure was immediate, the implications enormous. Standing in the Rose Garden, he declared unwavering support for Israel, but warned, "We must be smart, we must be strong." His words echoed across capitals, signaling both resolve and caution, and leaving allies and adversaries alike guessing what would come next. The deadline creates urgency, putting pressure on Iran, Israel, and America's allies. Every hour brings new speculation as diplomats scramble and leaders weigh their options. The world's media tracks every development, amplifying the sense of crisis. Inside the White House, 2 paths are debated. Advisors are split, each side convinced their approach is the only way to avoid disaster. The first, a diplomatic surge, pushing for a ceasefire and a new security agreement. Diplomats work around the clock, hoping to broker peace before the deadline expires. State Department officials warn that military action could be catastrophic, risking countless lives and trillions of dollars. They argue that negotiation, though difficult, is the only path to lasting stability. The second, direct military intervention, options range from targeted airstrikes to full-scale support for Israel. Military planners outline scenarios, each more dangerous than the last. Pentagon hawks argue that only overwhelming force will deter Iran and protect American credibility. They insist that hesitation could embolden adversaries and weaken U.S. influence in the region. The choice is stark: diplomacy or war, with consequences that could reshape the world. The countdown has begun. Every option carries risk, and every decision will be scrutinized for years to come. The world's eyes are on the White House. Allies, rivals, and ordinary citizens alike await the outcome, knowing it could alter the course of history. The next move will echo for generations. This is a moment that will be studied, debated, and remembered long after the deadline passes. The stakes could not be higher. The decision looms, and the world holds its breath, waiting to see which path America will choose. Diplomacy demands global unity. America must rally Russia, China, and divided European allies. A ceasefire is just the start. A lasting peace has eluded diplomats for decades. Failure could embolden Iran and leave Israel exposed. Trump, wary of appearing weak, faces a tough sell at home and abroad. Military intervention risks a regional inferno. Even limited U.S. strikes could provoke massive Iranian retaliation against U.S. bases, Israel, and global oil routes. Iran could close the Strait of Hormuz, sending oil prices soaring and triggering a worldwide recession. A full-scale war would be long, bloody, and destabilizing, with no clear endgame. The human and economic toll would be staggering. Extremist groups could thrive in the chaos. Other powers might be drawn in, risking global conflict. The president's choice could unleash consequences beyond imagination. The world stands at a crossroads. The consequences of U.S. action, or inaction, reach far beyond the battlefield. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's oil lifeline. Any disruption could triple prices overnight and trigger a global recession. Industries from airlines to agriculture would suffer, and stock markets could crash. Even the threat of war has rattled markets. Actual conflict would spark financial panic. A U.S.-Iran war could draw in Russia and China, turning the region into a proxy battleground. The risk of miscalculation between nuclear powers would soar. Diplomatic fallout could fracture NATO and isolate the U.S. The global effort to prevent nuclear proliferation could collapse. The price of action, or inaction, could be catastrophically high. The world's stability hangs in the balance. The stakes are global. The cost could last for generations. Trump's ultimatum has split America. His base rallies for action, seeing a chance to stand with Israel and confront Iran. Yet many America First supporters question another Middle East war, wary of endless conflict. Congress mirrors this divide. Hawks demand swift action, while others insist on congressional approval and warn against another unauthorized war. Public opinion is nearly split, half support defending Israel, half fear another costly quagmire. Memories of Iraq and Afghanistan haunt the debate. The president must balance interventionist pressure with non-interventionist promises. The political stakes are enormous. As the deadline nears, domestic tensions rise. The decision will define Trump's legacy and America's future. The nation is anxious, uncertain, and watching. The pressure is mounting. The clock is running out. Trump's ultimatum reverberates worldwide. European allies urge restraint, fearing war will destroy diplomacy and spark a refugee crisis. Russia and China, invested in Iran, publicly call for calm but see strategic opportunity in U.S. entanglement. Arab states like Saudi Arabia quietly hope for a blow to Iran, but fear retaliation on their own soil. The UN is sidelined, powerless to act as great powers clash. Secretary General Guterres pleads for a ceasefire, but the Security Council is deadlocked. The world's leaders talk, but the real power lies in Washington. The fate of millions may hinge on a single decision. The world is watching, waiting. The stakes are unprecedented. The next move could change the course of history. The global economy teeters on the edge. Oil prices have surged and the threat of war could send them to record highs. Consumers and businesses worldwide feel the pain: rising gas prices, higher costs for goods, and volatile markets. A U.S. entry into the war could trigger a deep recession, shatter supply chains, and destroy investor confidence. Stock markets swing wildly with every headline. Fear and uncertainty rule. The cost of war would strain the U.S. budget, leading to higher taxes and cuts at home. Rebuilding the region would take decades and hundreds of billions. The economic fallout could reshape the world for a generation. The stakes are not just military, they're financial, and they're global. The world's prosperity is at risk. The decision in Washington will echo in every economy. The world holds its breath. The world stands at a crossroads: war or peace, chaos or stability. President Trump faces a legacy-defining choice: military intervention or diplomacy. War could mean strength or another endless conflict. Diplomacy could bring peace or be seen as weakness if it fails. There is no easy path. Every option carries risk and consequence. The world waits as the clock ticks down. The decision will echo for generations. The fires of the Middle East could be extinguished or become an inferno. The future is uncertain. The stakes are immense. Only wisdom and foresight can prevent disaster.